This is bonus content. Bonus content for the viewer, because I'm just currently deleting my recorder because it's full, and that's why the end of the programme didn't record last week. But luckily I'd recorded it on video, which reminds me to start recording. What do you mean professionalism? This isn't the bench.
When does that start?
You're not Jenna Brooks.
Well,
I'm not John
I don't
Wilkin.
have the hair anymore.
I need to watch that Wigan documentary because I really have nothing to write about this month.
I have to say that the bench this week is worth watching. Well, I think it's only fair.
It's fair enough.
Lisa Nandy's on it, and I think what comes
the Right Honourable Lisa Nandy.
Yeah, the Minister for Culture, Media and Sport.
They have culture in Wigan.
Well, what comes out is we have got a friend in a very high place, and she's passionate about what rugby league stands for, and even mentioned that she couldn't believe when they got into office that there hadn't been anybody from the sport who had a knighthood. I think we can safely say that she is championing the cause of Billy Boston.
She has to fill in the forms.
Yes.
She'll have minions to
and
do
then
that.
submit them to herself.
Yeah, she'll have minions to do that. Well, I mean, when this Prime Minister quits, he can put them in the honours list, like Rishi Sunak did with Jimmy Anderson. You know, remember when Boris Johnson made a fuss about Sir Kevin Sin? He didn't put Kevin Sinfield on his list because he thought he was already knighted, because he called him that in Parliament. It's in Hansard and everything.
Yeah.
And it's still deleting everything. So this is all bonus content. I don't know how this is going to end up on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast. We've had a letter.
And a gift.
We'll come to that in a moment. Let me go through Twitter. Any chance, says Brendan, of that Mark Wilson bloke making an appearance anytime soon? I get that he's quite busy. Can't afford him.
Not now. He's everywhere.
He is everywhere.
He's following the darts through Europe.
The Euro Tour, the best touring sport.
He's on that Sky thing.
He's on Sky. He was on TalkSport yesterday. It was funny because I was at work.
We'd be so far down the pecking order.
I know. I was at work yesterday and I tried to tee up some lines because one of my colleagues was doing the bit where they go to, and now here's the odds from William Hill. And it was one of my colleagues doing it. And I said to him, call them the Mighty Wakefield. Call it the Dowell Powell Dart. He didn't call it any of that. But he did say Wakefield by 13 or more points. He was spot on that one. So that was... but I didn't tell him that because I went Wakefield by 4.
It was a lot more than 13 as it turned out.
Yeah, we'll talk about what went on at the start of the programme this week. Hello to all the people on YouTube. That is Andy and Kevin and Tim. It's not a political programme. I know it started political, but we didn't mean to make it political. I'll wait until that's finished. We've had a letter. It's not from the Total RL Forum. It says, Dear team, as a London Broncos fan who travels home and away, we are often criticised for not bringing more fans to away games. Our efforts are not always appreciated by other teams' fans. As such, I have made some calculations on the distance our fans travel to attend all our away games, as some do, because they're loyal supporters. Using the Cherry Red Record Stadium as a starting point, why not... where did he play the other week? Roslyn Park or something?
They go to Ebbsfleet.
Ebbsfleet? He's going to record now. It's recording. Using the Cherry Red Record Stadium as a starting point, I should leave all the other stuff off the podcast and just start with it. A London fan attending all away games in 2025, they would travel a total of 5,394 miles in the season. The average round trip being 415 miles, quite a commitment. It's bad enough going to London once. You know, we're going to have to do it twice this year.
That's Perth to Sydney.
Yeah, is it? Like the where the Bears live?
Not yet.
Not yet. I realise that Pyongyang, North Korea, is 5,383 by air. Thus, thought of you in the Pyongyang pylons. So, Pyongyang, someone I know you hold dear. So as to mark our efforts, we London Broncos away fans would like you to accept this North Korean table flag for your studio. This programme gets stupider and stupider by the week. Here is looking forward to our club's new administration. Keep up the good work, Dennis Hoolan. Dennis, thank you very much. Much appreciated. And you're off to London on Wednesday because you're going to enjoy Lamingtons, which don't sound that impressive, to be honest.
Well,
I don't want to criticise all of Australian culture, but, you know.
To be honest, to go 200 miles for a Lamington, it does seem a bit excessive. I'm not sure that's the reason we're going. But yes, it's the supposed dawning of the new era interestingly at the Australian Embassy, so you'd think there's going to be some kind of Australian involvement. It's listed also, interestingly, as London Broncos and the RFL.
I thought, who runs the RFL?
Well, it will be interesting to see who is there, but also what their involvement is. It doesn't say London Broncos and the NRL.
No.
So yes, there's I think it opens about 10:30 in the Embassy. Coffee and a Lamington, which apparently isn't Battenberg, is a shame. I think Brian Carney and Jenna Brooks are hosting.
She's Australian.
There's going to be people on the stage saying things.
Wow.
And then more coffee and Lamingtons.
Well, if they're there, it might be on the telly then. It is going to be, because there's nothing going on now. Football season's finished.
It is going to be on the telly. Or I think there's excerpts into Sky Sports News.
That's what I mean. So
and then it might be on the verdict.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm working on Wednesday, so I won't see it, but at least it'll be on Sky Sports News. The people who are terminally semi-retired and just sit at home all day watching Sky Sports News in the hope of some rugby league turning up. That'd be great.
Well, it will be there, and we shall report back fulsomely.
Who was supposed to be buying them? I can't remember now.
Well, I don't think anybody was.
It's not the Roosters. That's Salford.
They're not.
Or just investing.
Yes, I think the plan was that the NR and an NRL club or clubs would pay for the marketing of what they're trying to do to reinvent themselves and some development officers. The main story, I believe, is everything in London and the South is coming under an umbrella, which is the first time that's happened.
So
Who's holding that umbrella? We don't know.
That's positive. Well, it's Brian Carney said on the telly on Friday, interim chair of the RFL, Nigel Wood, which is news to everyone.
Well, indeed him.
Yeah.
Because he isn't.
He's got a fancy new job title, hasn't he? Well, executive director or something, which you know.
He's on holiday.
So I'm going to call myself an executive producer of this programme. He's on holiday?
Yes.
Oh.
Pre-booked.
It's good timing.
Otherwise, I think he would have been in London on Wednesday. I could have asked him.
Yeah, as the executive director of the Rugby Football League's steering committee on the interim report thing that's going on. That's still going on.
Which I think will appoint a board more than strategically move the game particularly forward.
A longer running Aussie drama than the Sullivans or the Young Doctors, says Tim. One for the teenagers. Probably still repeated the Young Doctors somewhere.
What, the Lamingtons? Was that a programme? I don't. Apparently it's sponge coated in chocolate with, is it coconut?
I've no idea. I thought Pavlova was the Australian
The
dessert
only
of
thing
choice.
I know about Lamingtons, they were named after one of the original governors of Queensland, and they presented him with this cake saying, we're going to call it a Lamington after you, and he said, don't like it.
Lovely. That's gratitude for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we named the whole country after everything to do with Great Britain. But thankfully they're taking it back as they should, so that's good.
So yes, the big news story that it will be on Wednesday. Hopefully,
the wheelchair ashes are on.
The wheelchair, but not 4 tests, which I think we originally thought it might be, but two tests sandwiched by games against Queensland and New South Wales at venues that will be testing out for the World Cup next year,
which is coming. For more wheelchair stuff, stay tuned to the channel this week.
But also, we know who's in the Wheelchair Challenge Cup final.
We do. Halifax, who beat Sheffield,
which wasn't a surprise.
No. And London, who I tried to watch London and Leeds, but it was on at the same time as Leeds and St Helens, which had commentary, and I couldn't keep up with watching 2 screens.
The only slight problem with the wheelchair was it didn't have a scoreboard.
So you didn't really know.
I think the feed was lost for a little while in the first half, and when it came back, you had no idea what the score. We're led to believe Leeds were winning 24-6 at half time, and London staged a phenomenal fight back to win 30-28.
So it was nearly two games at the same time where Leeds blew big leads, but they only didn't even win. But Halifax versus London, an intriguing final.
First time London have been in a wheelchair final. Again, you would hope that it's going to be televised, so you would hope that there's people start to realise that the geographical footprint of the sport isn't just based on the men's running game.
Hello to everyone who's watching. And Cardiff Demons beat Hull KR in the Women's Championship because they didn't tweet about it, they Instagrammed about it, so I could follow the score as opposed to some of our teams in Super League.
Our players
I don't think she scored, right. But they won.
She will have been instrumental, even if she wasn't playing in the victory.
But they won, so that's the main thing. So that was good. We'll come into all the results in a bit. In fact, did any other news happen this week? Because I can't think of anything that's happened.
Jared Warre-Hargreaves got banned, which everybody's saying he would spend most of the time on the touchline. This is we're 11 weeks in, his first ban. But he's free for the Challenge Cup final.
So he's retiring anyway, so it's like in Australia. It started, hasn't it? It's that season where can't ban them.
James isn't here, by the way.
James is not here. No, he's been replaced by a Rhino shirt. Rhino's a women's shirt, but it's obscured by the North Korea flag now. He's been banned for 2 weeks, but in Australia now it's all because Ryan Pappenhausen nearly should have got sent off probably at the end of Melbourne Storm's game, but didn't, and now we can't ban him because it's Origin coming up and. Origin 2 was good in the rain. I enjoyed that on Thursday morning.
2, yes, it was good, except the wrong team won.
Well, I don't know, but
no, it was high quality.
As a big fan of the Blues,
The other thing
I know all their players.
that struck me about the intensity and quality of it, this is before the season starts. It's phenomenal.
Jamie Chapman, she's like a gazelle, I think they said.
They did say that, and she is.
Phil Gould, he's allowed to have favourite players, but when I have favourite players, people have a go at me, so that's not fair. What's the difference?
Yes, he was a big fan of Sumaima Taufa.
He likes forwards as well. But it was a good game, enjoyable.
It was a very
Thursday,
good game.
Thursday in the
Really
rain,
good game.
Thursday morning. The Blues won. They've won the series now. So
They have. First time they've won a series.
win the Shield and everything. And game 3 is the day. Is it the day after the first men's Origin? Or I think it's on the Thursday and the men's on the Wednesday.
Yes.
So that's in a couple of weeks. So
Origin coming up.
Yeah, more morning Republic. And they're already talking in Australia because they were mentioning it after the first game that they want to play 80 minutes. So we're thinking about playing 70 minutes. That's great. Great
Makes
planning.
sense.
Makes sense. Well, it was funny because I was listening to the NRLW.
Well, apparently they rang up the RFL to discuss it, and there was nobody there to answer the phone.
I listened to the NRLW weekly podcast because, of course, I would. And they were talking about 80 minutes being the international rules. And I thought, yeah, play 70 in Vegas, didn't we? I don't want to take about Vegas.
Vegas. That was news.
Leeds and Hull Yarra going, who knew? Everyone.
Well, more than that, over 5,000 expressions of interest for tickets already. Most flights on the packages already sold out. It looks like it's going to have a major tourist impact on the Las Vegas region, which is what we want. There's a lot of people that are getting very excited about going to Vegas.
Exciting. And which were the 4 teams from Australia?
Canterbury.
When Newcastle going, that's the main thing.
Newcastle, St George.
But by the time Newcastle go, will their coach still be there? So will their assistant coach still be there?
Well, will their assistant coach be their coach?
It could be in charge, couldn't he?
Which would be great.
Because it's all
nice reunion.
Yeah, because it's all everyone's.
Well, but who will be the Leeds coach? Because Brad Arthur may well have gone by then.
Why Perth haven't set up yet? Well, that's Sam's team. Sam's going to Perth.
You'd be surprised.
Might be Dowell Powell. Everyone wants Kaius Fiatili now. He's the greatest forward in the history of World Rugby League.
If only he'd stayed on for a bit longer, he'd have won man of the match.
But we'll come to that in a bit.
Yeah.
What other news has there been? Because it has been a very... If you were writing a weekly newspaper, you'd be struggling this week. You'd be thinking, we're going to have to get some stories from people. But there's nothing going on, I don't think.
I think it's safe to say as well we're approaching that mid-season where the quality drop. Everybody talks about peaks and troughs in the season. The little bit of a trough this week. I suppose the other thing is the 1895 Cup final.
Yes.
Which I know we will talk about as results. But Featherstone back at Wembley. Oldham still the bridesmaids when it comes to going to
They're like the
National Stadium. And would you say surprisingly York beat Bradford? Probably. I mean, York are the form team at the moment, but
they were both toss of a coin, weren't they, going into it? But you would have thought
Mark
Bradford next week.
Applegarth
Back at Wembley. A year ago, we were at Wembley. It was one of my first appearances back in public life, and and he'd just been announced as York. I said, congratulations on the new job. And
he was doing commentary then, wasn't he?
For Radio Leeds.
And now he's going back. Now he's going back as a coach.
He'll be there, walking out. Obviously, I want Fev to win, but but I'm neutral.
Well, you've got a family connection.
Yeah, so but it's I am really excited about Wembley now.
Yeah,
I wasn't before, and then when we discussed the final last week about the matchups and stuff, now I'm really excited about Wembley again. Apart from the fact that it's a very long day.
It's and we
but,
get a columnist leading out a team.
Yes.
So Paul Cook will be taking Featherstone to Wembley, which I think it personally means a lot to him because he didn't play there as a player, but he's going there as a coach. So I think all 3 games now have a real story attached to them, and that's brilliant.
It's all very exciting.
Well, York and Featherstone met each other in this competition
2021.
And it was
the first. It was the first
102.86.
Yeah, it was the first post-COVID final, so it was still there were still restrictions. I think they checked our temperature when we went in.
It was just
sure we were ready.
Very high scoring game from what I remember.
It was. So that was good.
And both clubs you would think would take a sufficient amount of fans to generate.
Fev will be
atmosphere.
empty again.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure York will be busy as well.
I think York have got a following. It's and it's growing.
There was a good crowd there yesterday, wasn't there? I'm not sure what it was, but they're talking about I don't know if it was a record crowd for York or not, but big numbers, and obviously Bradford took a fair few as well, obviously.
Yeah, took 2,500 to Oldham.
Why is the 1895 after the Challenge Cup, says LG, nobody will stay? Because
TV. It's TV scheduling. They show the women's game live on BBC Two, the men's game live on BBC One.
And then you have to. We'll get our phone out so you can watch the 1895 final.
But the 1895 has to be the last of those three games.
But again, why weren't those two games yesterday streamed? Or were they? Because I watched Oldham versus Fairmont. What appeared to be some kind of holy stream.
You didn't.
It's like being back in Spain watching Illegal Sky or something. But it was on YouTube. I was at work yesterday, break at 3 o'clock, put YouTube on, because I could only watch Wakefield Warrington on my phone, so I thought, well, I'll just listen to it instead, because it was Mark and Doc doing it. They were great, so I'll listen to them anyway. And it came up on YouTube as the recommended videos. Watch it's live, so I watched it. So
Featherstone were good.
They were good. Oldham came back in the second half, from what I saw, and Featherstone held them at bay. So a bit of a difference from the game, which was so close last time, and only decided by a kick. But Featherstone in the final, and they say Oldham that their wait continues. One of those weird things. But at least they've got a chance to.
There's a huge value in this cup, I think.
I mean,
we need to promote it more, because for the clubs that are going to Wembley, it will be massive. For the ones that have missed out, it really hurts, and that shows there's a value in it.
LG says, and he puts no up they, because I don't know LG, puts no offence at the start. The Championship teams bring more than the women, which is true. More fans than the women, which is true. That no one's going to deny that. But unfortunately for them, TV companies want the Women's Challenge Cup and not the 1895 Cup. It is as simple as that. If you change the order around, it doesn't make any difference, because you're still going to have the people there first to watch the 1895 Cup, and people who support Hull, and Warrington will drift in as the game comes in. But it's just how it is.
I think you can see with women's sport at the moment why so many television companies want to get behind it. It is a burgeoning part of the sports content in all sports. We've got a women's football and rugby union World Cup coming up, and it's only going to increase. So I can see why that's of interest to a national broadcaster. I do think that, I would imagine it'll be on the Sportsman, the 1895.
I think it was last year.
It was last year. We just need to make sure that enough people know that, don't put the kettle on and go and mow the lawn after the Challenge Cup final. You've got another really good game to watch.
And it will kick off late, because there'll be the celebrations afterwards. I couldn't believe how long it took Crystal Palace to lift the FA Cup on Saturday night. It just took forever.
I didn't see. Did it start at 9 o'clock in the morning with the build?
Sadly, no. Frank Boff wasn't there. He wasn't there, sadly.
There wasn't a cup final swap shop or whatever.
The ghost of Keith Chegwin swapping battered Scalextric sets in Wigan Park, if such a thing exists. Victoria Park in Warrington, it could have been there. Although what was interesting yesterday was West Ham of Martin Kellner's parish and Gary Schofield's, oddly. I'm not sure we ever worked that out.
No. We like the colours, I think. But then it's the same as Aston Villa, so what? I don't.
They played Forest yesterday in the Premier League. A game kicked off at 2:15, finished just in time for the 4:30 kick-off between Arsenal and Newcastle. I think they had 16 minutes of stoppage time at the end. So as bad as Super League is, and this is not a defence of Super League, bad as we are,
we're not as bad as somebody else.
And they've got loads of money. They can have like VAR everywhere. How can you have a match after the final? They'll be rushing the winners off the pitch instead of letting them parade the cup around the pitch properly. I don't think they rush them off, do they?
No.
It just kicks off later. And
it'll be what, about 5:30?
My mate's worried because he's booked train tickets. He's off to the Championship playoff final. I think it's this week between Sheffield United and Sunderland, which is good for everyone because it's all red and white, and they all have to come down from the north to the south and spend a fortune on. He sent me the prices for trains, and I swear it probably is cheaper to go to Vegas for the week. But he's booked his ticket after the game, and he's thinking, no way I'm going to get that back on time because of all the faff in football. Had the 1895 been before the Challenge Cup, he'd be staying, says LG. How can everyone? I don't know what we can do with it. And then the other problem is you've got the schools final that no one's there for because it kicks off before these.
10:30 before the stadium's even open, or 10 o'clock.
But I've said that before, and Abigail is happy because she's off to Wembley. She's one of the mascots for. Well, she doesn't know which team yet.
Oh right, okay.
Either Saints or Wigan. She's staying for all three, she thinks, but all the rest of my team wanted Oldham to be in the final, but she didn't because she's a Rochdale fan.
Didn't she mention something about a crowd of 400
Yeah.
for the Rochdale women's
She
team?
sent a tweet.
Which was
412 for the big derby, Rochdale Hornets versus Rochdale Mayfield. So in Women's Northern League 2. Who knew such a thing existed?
all that 400 people would go along and watch.
So there
which
you
is
go.
Excellent. I think you can commercialise the women's game. We haven't yet, but that would be a plan. Whereas I'm not sure you can the championship. So for the BBC, it fits the brief of what they're doing. For the game as a whole, it gives us something saleable in future TV broadcast negotiations.
We just haven't quite worked out how to support it as a sport yet. But we will do eventually.
Well, again, you'd hope, and we've said it before, that incoming investment, be that NRL or anyone else who's out there, women's has to be part of that package.
And the problem is, the women's final is not going to be split apart from the men's final at Wembley for A, cost reasons, and B, you can't do it now. Now we've gone from Warrington and 2,000 people there.
And I think we're building up the personalities of the women's game to the point where, even having Dennis Betts being interviewed before as the coach of Wigan, there are people outside of the circle of the game that will recognise his rasping voice.
Speaking of personalities, excuse me, my voice is turning into Dennis Betts at the minute, and that's because I haven't drunk enough today. Speaking of personalities in Rugby League,
it's almost a segue then.
Yeah,
isn't it?
Well, what better than Emily Rudge, who not only was on our programme the other week,
And was very good.
former England captain, visible on social media. She's now got a broadcast channel on Instagram. I don't know what that is, but it said, "Do you want to follow it?" And I said yes. And now I've got a training regime for the week.
Okay.
She's doing lowers today and uppers tomorrow. But she's also got merchandise. Look at this. You can now buy Emily Rudge t-shirts. I mean, the big surprise is I haven't bought one, but they're in women's sizes. And they're in women's sizes. I don't know what women's size I am, so I've not checked. Channel the power of a rugby legend in style, it says here. Wow. This short-sleeved women's tee, see, that's I'm not a woman, am I? Is more than just a wardrobe essential. It's a tribute to Emily Rudge.
Well,
current women's rugby league star and trailblazer. It's all true.
Has she written this?
I don't know. Featuring an exclusive design inspired by Emily herself. That's her there. The top proudly showcases her image alongside the bold words "Rudge Mode," capturing the unstoppable energy she brings to the game. She's full of energy. That's what she was on the commentary.
She's Ilona Mar.
Crafted from... Oh, then it's just talking about soft, breathable cotton and stuff, and I don't think we're interested in that. But yes, I need to work out what size I am, so I too can get a Rudge Mudge t-shirt and show my support for it. Imagine if I turned up at a game dressed like that. I'd look like one of those weird stalker people who go outside.
Asked her to sign it while you were still wearing it.
I'm waiting for other players to bring out merch before I do that. So do go and buy Emily Rudge's t-shirt, because there he is. But that is a real, genuine thing you can buy, which is great. But we don't have enough.
If
We
one
don't have
of
enough of
those
this stuff.
isn't on this table
Well, I know.
soon, I shall be amazed.
Abigail's asked for one for her birthday. But you're the target audience, Abigail.
Yeah.
You're the right kind of... I can't wear a Rudge Mod
How's
t-shirt.
it go with the beard?
Yeah. We've got a North Korean flag on the table. We've got a Gothic novel. We've got some pens. We've got Where's Wally. I don't think I can wear the Emily Rudge t-shirt. Despite the fact I've got a cat in front of me at the minute. But there you go.
We should have really advertised it on the LED board.
Well, the Emily Rudge t-shirt?
Yeah.
I don't think I've got enough...
Tunnock's caramel wafers.
Is it going?
Which I saw was going around one of the grounds this weekend.
And he says, Emily needs to know Warrington is looking for a media manager. Are they? I don't know.
Yeah, I think digital media, I think.
Oh, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? We need to use her somehow. She's got the skill. I don't know how to work these things, but she's obviously in touch with...
And the thing is, when the Challenge Cup comes around and she's interviewed and she's, she's got something about her, and maybe... Tanya will be asking her about her t-shirt apparel. This is why...
Should we get James Child t-shirts for next Child mode? James mode, that sounds better.
Yeah.
James mode. Yeah. With a picture of him blowing his whistle.
Yeah.
Anyway, so is that all the news? This week's news is Emily Rudger's got a T-shirt, so that's brilliant. I hope she doesn't see this now, because next time I have to interview, it'll be a bit.
She'll be delighted.
In the tunnel, plugging the T-shirt.
We're promoting her merch.
Tunnels.
Steve Mascott will be selling it.
Well, it must be. Women's season through the winter. Asks LG. No, we don't want winter rugby. I know there's this whole thing, well, the Australians might come over here and play, and we might go over there and play. No. The wheelchair season in the winter, it's inside. Right? That might work, but
I'm just not
anything
a fan
in winter.
I'm not a fan of 12-month sport. I think you have to have a period whereby you're enticed for it to start again. We need shorter men's season, more intense women's season.
Do you think they've done the fixtures on purpose? So we've got, in this first block, Leeds Saints, York Wigan. We've got York Leeds this week.
Mm-hmm.
So that's big games at the start of the season. So people go,
Makes sense. Is it Wigan Saints this week as well?
No, it's Saints Huddersfield, I think.
Saints.
So I kind of with 3 games and then we don't want winter rugby.
No.
I know that he was fun watching.
Nor do we
the
want
rain.
a summer sport kicking off next year.
It's going to be earlier.
The
What's
last
this?
week of January.
When did this?
Well, it's because of the World Cup.
The World Cup.
So everything is concertina. The Challenge Cup is going to be earlier. The season's going to start earlier to give the team. I think the grand final finishes earlier to give preparation for the World Cup to start.
The great thing is about the women's game and how it will grow is there's going to be more and more girls playing, and they will backfill. So any players that do go over to the NRLW will get their chances earlier, perhaps, and they'll sink or swim as they do in the men's game, as they it happens in every sport. So It's great. I am old because 2 players for Leeds Academy this week who played against St Helens, I know their mothers on Facebook. That makes me feel very old. It's not right. But it's good to see someone called Trinity score for Leeds at the weekend. So that was very good. I was very, very pleased about that. That was very good. That was very good. And yes, that's why she's called Trinity. So that's good. We don't want winter RL, says Andy. Is true.
Yes, I agree.
Andrew Johnson's coming over again. He's gone. He's gone. It's finished. It's finished. No more of that. Right. Is that all the news? Yeah,
I think we got more than we thought.
Yeah.
In the unstructured way and unprofessional way we go about our business.
So got to go, lads. Catch up later, says Kevin. Oh, just as we're about to talk about Warrington, we're coming to that later. Enjoy your evening, Kevin.
Yes, is that why you've got to go?
Yeah. We've got to talk about St Helens first because they won.
Handsome.
Welland's in. 40-0 over Catalans. That's some score. I tipped Saints to win, but like Wakefield on North Sunday, not play as many as they did.
I know when the Super League schedule comes out, you've no idea who's going to be playing in the Challenge Cup. But that did look like a very, very tired Catalan side who'd come over on the Saturday, gone back home to France, flown back for Thursday's game, didn't make a great start, never recovered, looked absolutely shattered by the end. So well done, Saints. It was good to see some free-flowing, flamboyant rugby. Great that George Whitby was headlining with his hat-trick and was it 24 points.
And he's doing his A-levels or something this week. So
Brilliant,
well done.
absolutely. And maybe Saints are back. This is a decent run of fixtures for Saints. To be playing Catalan straight after they've been in a cup final, and with the greatest respect, Huddersfield this weekend. Not sure we know if Saints have progressed that far, but confidence-wise, winning 40-0 at home is. There's not a lot more you can do, and they did look when they started moving the ball around with a little bit more confidence. They look good, but again, it came back to now: do they have the right players in the right position?
Well, they might do. We'll only know when they get their next test. And it has Johnny Lomax become to St Helens what Kevin Sidfield was to Leeds in that season where Brian McDermott dropped him, and then came back and won the grand finals. I'm not saying Saints will win the grand final. I'm not going that far just yet, but.
No, I don't think you
early.
can definitively say that they're back, and you can't definitively say that they'd gone either. So they are in that mid-table section where 2 or 3 wins and suddenly you're challenging again.
And Catalans, same problems as before.
They don't seem to have an identity yet this year. That some of the players that they brought in haven't settled and started making an impact. They've had some injuries. They just don't look. They look a shadow of themselves. They're not intimidating up front. I think it was quite telling that Hull KR identified that they probably wouldn't manage the full 80 minutes of high intensity. So yeah, some work for Steve McNamara to do. He keeps sounding very confident when they interview him that they're going to be fine. Big game this weekend. I think was it might have been John Wilkin that said losing like that away from home won't make great ripples in the south of France, but do that at home to Wigan this week and there would be ramifications.
So Saints have beaten Catalans twice now, because they won in the south of France.
Well,
and he's the Super League's longest serving coach until he takes over from Brad Arthur at Leeds. Steve McNamara.
Is he?
Apparently.
All right. Not Paul Rowley.
I don't know who the second.
Not Paul Rowley. He's not taking over.
Oh, is he not? I don't know.
Is he? I don't know.
Or I don't know. JJB could do everything.
Kevin Sinfield.
Kevin Sinfield.
He's coming back.
Sir Kevin, who might be a sir by then.
Who knows?
Assuming that, of course, Brad Arthur does get the Perth job and it's not somebody else from Australia. And Perth are still 2 years away?
Yeah, I think Perth have now appointed a chief executive, which one of their jobs will be to announce who the coach is. So I think things are moving in a logical direction. The word from Australia is that there have been interviews with potential coaching candidates. Brad Arthur has been one of them.
Leeds Lasers appointed a chief executive.
Did they?
Do you know who the Leeds Lasers are?
The ice hockey team.
The ice hockey team that was set up by Leeds United for the arena that never got built. But they did appoint a chief executive and buy half a franchise in Super League, which they obviously never.
Right.
But that was Peter Ridsdale, so it's a good job we've got no one like him involved in Rugby League. We'll go on to Salford in a bit.
Nice.
Good old Salford Council. So that was. I mean, Ian's in the chat. Do you want us to say anything more about Salford, more about St Helens, apart from George would be very impressive because he's only young. He's the first ever young player ever to do anything.
I think a lot of people got excited about where St Helens were going, and youth is a very important moving you back to the next stage. And the thought of Harry Robertson and George Whitby playing together is exciting for even those of us who aren't St Helens fans. So some of that talent is going to be well worth watching in the future.
Both wear scrum hats as well, so maybe that's something we need to look into. Is there a correlation between talent and wearing scrum caps?
It'd be great if they all wore a different colour, so you knew who
this is the problem with the women's game at the minute. They've all got the same hairstyle. So the sooner that we have players wearing different hairstyles. I mean, well done, Katie Motter said she hasn't, but she wears a hat anyway, so it doesn't matter. But these good things. We'll come on to them in a moment because on Friday, Wigan Warriors 40, York Valkyrie 6. The marker is down. Wigan are now the greatest team ever to play women's rugby. They're going to win everything.
Well, that's two impressive games to start the season.
You've got to do it in October.
Yes, as indeed York last year, riven with injury at the start of the season.
Somehow.
Written off by the middle of it.
Yep.
Won the competition.
Did I write him off? I don't know. I don't think I did.
I think the fact is Wigan have... they've opened their new facility at Orrell, Edge Hill.
Great, isn't it?
For both rugby league and women's football. Their own bespoke training gymnasium, I think a dressing room facility there, which is great, gives them their own identity. They're clearly moving women into the right direction. They've got the backing of the main board, which is fantastic. They've clearly recruited well. Going back to youth, they were a really young side last year, inexperienced, but the players like Izzy Rowe and Grace Banks, they look far more accomplished because they're used to playing this level of rugby now, and they're a good they're entertaining.
They are a very entertaining team. In fact, I had to go back to check who scored the try that reminded me of Jamie Chapman's try the day before, but it was Tiana Power, the Australian, one of the Power sisters. I believe there's three of them. The other one's Angela, of course. But yeah, it was great to watch. This is what you tune in for. Isn't it scary that Izzy Rowe is 18?
18.
18. Jenna Fubister is
19. I think may just be 20.
and they play with such style and
Grace
confidence.
Banks, teenager.
It's
Great.
It's great. It's great. They're just too good. So we'll see what happens when they at the end of the season. But
Wembley will be interesting because obviously that psychologically and physically is a huge game. So, and it's not just if you win or lose it. It's how you go on after it as well. So yeah, great. Well, that's a big result.
Now we write off York because they're obviously right off York.
At our peril.
They're forward. Wigan's forwards just
dominant.
Emily Vivas, Papua New Guinea. So she's got a couple of good
mention
tries
that because obviously there'll be a spike in viewership.
We need a Papua New Guinea flag now as well, don't we?
Well, we need to interview her, don't we?
Yeah, again. Hopefully they'll take her to the pre-Challenge Cup final thing.
That'd be good.
Reece Martin. We should request that all the clubs take Roderick Ty.
Yeah. Anyone you've got who's got any connection with PNG. Anybody who happens to be walking past the venue who's from PNG as well.
Anyone.
Although apparently Castleford on the verge of releasing Judah Rimwood.
Oh.
Talking of PNG.
Why's that?
Chris Chester's there. I think he's re-evaluating the squad and
he gets loads of viewers. Can we get a message to Chris Chester?
Maybe he could sit in instead of James.
Yeah. Is he busy? Is he busy on Monday?
On Monday. You don't live far.
But it was a very impressive win from Wigan. I saw some people were not happy that Sky's coverage was very much focusing on 4 clubs. And I'll tell you why they were focusing on 4 clubs. Because there's only 4 clubs that can win anything. Yeah. And that's no disrespect.
None at all.
To, yesterday afternoon. So I'm trying to find out what's going on in the other games. Barrow, who are a championship club, and I'm going to assume have a lot fewer resources.
Well, they're a Super League club that have come up through the Championship.
Well, Barrow are a championship club for their men's team, I should say.
Yes,
sorry,
but not for their women.
No, but so as a men's championship club, they will have a lot less resource than Warrington and Huddersfield. But yet, and they were the away team at Lee. They were updating every single score on Twitter, and I know we've got the whole Leeds nonsense, which is I don't know. But they were updating the score, so I knew what was going on in that game. Warrington and Huddersfield couldn't find out. It's an absolute nightmare. Well, it's not a nightmare, is it? It's just
inept.
Not super. So why do they focus on these 4 teams? That's why. We'll come on to the other games in a bit. Because, also in Super League on Friday, Phil did not watch Wigan 36, Leeds 28, which was like the first game of the season, but in reverse.
Yeah, 12 tries.
Yeah.
No tries in game 1 and 12 in game 2. I have seen the tries, but yes, it was on the same time as another game.
Wigan are back. Well, they haven't gone away.
Yes, but full credit to Lee, because that is a game, again, coming after a draining semi-final, that they could have thrown in a towel, but they didn't, and that is to the credit again of Adrian. I think did Adrian Ham say that was actually the performance that most pleased him this season because of what it could have been, and they didn't allow it to be. People that watched the full game told me that was probably the quality game of the weekend.
Yeah, I was flicking between that and the Leeds game because they were both on at the same time, so I probably didn't get a great impression of both of them, but I probably should have stuck with that one. Although it did kick off a lot later than I thought.
Well, it certainly ended a lot later.
Yeah, and it wasn't helped by... I thought, well, I can watch Leeds because most of that game will be done by half-time and they can flick it. But then there was a long injury, so it kind of...
In both games?
Yeah.
Of which we are led to believe that both players are fine and making a good recovery.
They just have to take precautions. It's just one of those things you have to... that happens in every game we get these days, but that's good. As long as they're getting looked after, that's the main thing. And Lee are still looking like one of those teams who are going to be in the playoffs. They are going to be dangerous.
Yeah,
no one's going to want to play them. Yeah. And Wigan are still Wigan. Abbas Miski out now. He's having his surgery.
Wigan go on a run of away games. Is this the time of year where they have their pitch reseeded? But I do think that the Rugby Union winger that they've signed,
Christian Wade, yes, So that's his
may get a chance now if Miski's out for 2 months. I know he doesn't join yet until the rugby union season finishes. I don't know if his team have
their
been.
final season to go on in June or something.
Have they been knocked out of his team? I don't know. But he could find himself being given a run sooner than we thought.
They must have some kids in the academy. It's Wigan.
No, but it's good. It's if you're going to sign somebody who is an England rugby union player, then if he does get an opportunity, we can all see if he's going to make it or not.
Good to see the Welsh Rugby Union copying Rugby League and reducing the number of Welsh teams in their competition. Club sides, on this.
Talking of that, which is not what we were talking about, there has never been a better strategic opportunity for Rugby League to exploit the dire straits of the Welsh Rugby Union, both internationally and domestically. If we have anybody who is going to come and invest in this game, then it would make sense, yes, to look at London, and we'll get a bit more of an idea of what that looks like this week. Wales, particularly the way the Crusaders are playing at the moment in League One, with another huge win on Sunday, and the fact that Wrexham is the epicentre of Welsh football. If we can't do anything to put a professional franchise team in Wales, mop up some of the talent. If you're a young kid now who's 14, 15 and you want to be a professional rugby player, you've got as much chance of doing it in rugby league as you have in rugby union at the moment. We should be taking 130 years of angst and kicking them up their proverbial jackson.
I'd say, look what you should have done there in 1895. You should have.
Well, we've had innumerable opportunities to break into Wales and have never quite done it properly. Now they are at such a low ebb financially and internationally. We got a chance. We've got a chance. The again, slightly off piste. I went to Headingley early on Friday to show round a party who'd come up, who were family members and local councillors of Roy Francis,
who of course will.
Who coached Hull and coached Leeds. So Hull were playing Leeds. There's obviously Tony Collins' book coming out, so it was an apposite time to invite the family up, and not just the family, but councillors who've made sure that his name lives on. I think there were members of the BBC were there who've done the Code Breakers and the audio documentary about Roy. They were taken round to be shown that he has such an important part in and place within both clubs, but because it was at Headingley, we could show them heritage where he is commemorated. Most of those people who were die-hard Welsh had not been to a game of rugby league before. They were, to put it mildly, imbued with what they saw in the heritage side of things, and then the game that they watched afterwards. So there's a groundswell there saying rugby union, rugby league is not the pariah that we all thought it was. We can understand now why some of our top athletes went north to further themselves and look after their families. If we were to put something back that they could follow easily near them, I think we can reap the rewards of both a talent pool and a spectator base.
We'll get some daffodils on the table next week or something. Looking forward to that book.
Yes.
Looking forward to it. In a couple of weeks' time we'll talk more about that, which leads on to Leeds 18, Hull FC 16. Ryan Hall, what...
didn't have one of his best games.
Well, he didn't need to because he scored the winning try.
When he needed to be there, was there.
That was a fun last try to watch. I enjoyed it.
I don't think it was the highest quality game, but it was certainly one of the most exciting.
It's all that matters.
Hull, again, they are so different to what we've been used to over the last year and a half. So resilient. I think they would say that a couple of their top line players maybe were showing the effects of the rugby that they played so far this season, but they stuck in there and but for some brilliance from Ash Handley and some strength from Ryan Hall, Hull could quite easily have won that. As it happens, if you're looking at it from a blue and amber perspective, they played Hull KR a fortnight ago. They couldn't close out a game where they were 14-6 ahead. This time they were 16-4 down and found a way to win it. So Leeds establishing fourth position at the moment. It can all change, but there's something about that team.
Leeds are back. Well, like Saints in the sense they're not back, but they're on the way back. which is
I think they might have Andy Ackers back this week as well. Which the difference with most teams at the moment is they can't get their top team out there. Leeds seem to have an embarrassment of riches at the moment, and Cameron Smith back. So I think Brodie Croft back, who had quite an influence on the game. I think it will be interesting to see how what their first choice combinations were and if they can get a significant run going.
No,
but it was an entertaining game.
Well, that's all that matters. I'd rather be entertaining than boring.
Yeah. And Hull's kicking game was fantastic. Far, far better than Leeds'.
Is this a season where, yes, Hull KR are clear at the top at the moment, and we're going to probably the second best team in the competition, but the teams behind them, it's difficult to predict who's going to beat who because of the quality, not because they're not all good. There's lots of quality players dotted around the competition.
I think they're genuinely on a par with each other. Lee have got that stickability about them. They're never beaten. Leeds are improving. Saints can improve. Catalan can improve. Hull have improved. It's how they can keep that going. Wakefield now are in the top 6, but they're even with the injuries that they've got, they're looking like they are deserving of that place. There is an outside chance that maybe Cass could put a run together and join them, but
as long as they keep playing Huddersfield and Salford,
the core in the middle, there's going to be some fun over the next few weeks.
On Saturday, Leeds Rhinos women somehow didn't beat St Helens. 20 points apiece. One of the most ridiculous games of rugby I've watched in a long time. Entertaining, but ridiculous. How many forward passes, Maddie? If they'd have been in front of the South Stand, Leeds would have won by about 16 points. But they weren't. So, what's given at St Helens is
thoroughly entertaining. Again, I think the important thing from a Leeds perspective was they were poor by their own standards in the semi-final the week before.
Written them off last week, and Leeds are rubbish now, 4th.
And certainly the first half, they deserved to be more than 10-4 ahead. They were physically absolutely dominant. But again, a great game. Vicky Whitfield, fantastic for Saints. Scored 2 great tries. And a young Leeds team. Forwards, I thought Izzy Northrop was fantastic. But really, really good. Deserved to be, shown to a wider audience.
I was being, as you can tell by the fact that I can't put this sentence together, worried about language, because I want to say they were bulldozing runs from Vicky Whitfield, but I don't know if I said that about Caius Fayatili.
I think she'd take that as a compliment.
Bashing people.
She was
great.
She was
comes off the bench.
Yeah, changed the game. Changed the game. Really
entertaining match. Really enjoyed it. Saints with a couple of players missing, so Caitlin Casey back in the halves because Faye Gaskins out with the
although
concussion.
Katie Mottershead was fantastic.
She was. So they've got selection issues, which is good because going into a final you want to have players competing to be in that squad. So Sean Hoyle scored again, didn't dance this time like last week. And Leeds are back now. So after last week they were rubbish. This week they're back.
They go to
and then they got to York this
week.
The battle of the two teams we don't know what they are yet.